Hello, in this video we're going to be showing you how to install the Vscan keypad sanitizer device on your Genmega ATM. First, let's go over the parts that are included with the kit. You have the Vscan module itself with its cables. There's an installation template for helping mount the device onto your ATM. There is a power splitter cable to adapt power going to the device. Two M4 screws that are used to attach the Vscan to the back of the bezel, and then some black nylon zip ties. The ones included in the kit may be a little smaller than this, but they'll serve the same function. Let's go ahead now and review the tools you're going to need. To install the Vscan device, you're going to need the following tools: a Phillips head screwdriver, number 2-bit preferably, a cordless drill or electric drill, a 1/2-inch drill bit or 12 millimeter, a 1/4-inch drill bit or 5 millimeter, and a center punch. If you don't have a center punch, it's okay to use a nail or a sharp screwdriver with a small hammer, but it's going to be important that you have one. Now let's move over to the ATM and show how the process begins. Begin by cleaning the areas to the left and right of the keypad where you're going to be installing the template. Just simply use a cloth or something to wipe off any dust or any dirt that may be on the area. Begin by placing the template over the top of the keypad. Notice the cutouts where the keys should go, and that there's a little bit of wiggle room left and right and up and down. Take a minute and move the template around on the keypad before you install it so you can get an idea of how much room you want to have. You want to try and get it as centered as best as possible. With the template backing removed, carefully set the template over the top of the keypad. You want to make sure that you're not stretching it in any way when you do this. So just try and take your time and lay it on there. If you start with doing the center first, if you make a mistake, you can pull it back off and start over again. But once you feel comfortable with how you've got it laid out, go ahead and press around the edges. And your template's ready to go. Next, we're going to use the center punch to set a point for the drilling of the holes. It's really important that you do this because if you just take the drill and try and touch it directly to the hole, it's easy for the drill to walk off the edge of the piece of sticker here. By using the center punch, you're making a small indentation where the tip of the drill can bite in and then drive into the plastic. Put the center punch exactly in the crosshairs that are on the template and push down. Again, if you don't have a center punch, you can use a nail or a sharp screwdriver and give it a small tap with a hammer to make the small point. Once those are in place, you're ready to drill. A few notes before you drill. If possible, use a sharp drill bit, as drilling into plastic tends to cause drills to grab. Also, run the drill at a high speed. Don't try and go too slow. The high speed will also keep the drill from grabbing. Now here I've drilled using a 1/4-inch bit or 5 millimeter in each of the 3 spots. For these spots, they're going to stay that way because we're going to put screws through them. For the larger one, we're now going to switch to a 1/2-inch bit and drill that out the rest of the way, as that's where our cables are going to go. Let's go ahead and drill the 1/2-inch hole. And there we go. Just brush away any extra. And now we can proceed with the rest of the installation. Once the holes have been drilled, it's okay to go ahead and remove the template sticker from the front of the bezel. Next, we're going to install the Vscan device onto the front of the machine. To do this, we're going to feed the cable connectors through the 1/2-inch hole we drilled in the bezel. Begin with the largest and take your time. They'll fit through the holes, but it can be a little snug. Once the cables have been fed through the hole, you're ready to mount the Vscan from the bottom. Open the top of the bezel up as far as you need to and get down, and let's go install the screws from the bottom. To get the screws started, a tip is to take the center punch or the nail you used and line the holes up from the back. Then it should be much easier to start the screws. Once you get one side in, snug it down and it'll be easier to hold the other side. While it's not entirely necessary to do this, we're going to show you how to install the cables with the bezel swung forward just for clarity. Remove the two screws on either side of the sliding tray that allow the front of the machine to hinge forward. The next step is to locate this yellow wire coming from the Vscan, and we're going to unplug this LED that's on top of the keypad light. Unplug it from there and attach the yellow wire here. For the next part of the project, let's go ahead and remove the cover from the back of the main board. There's two screws, one on each corner, to remove, and set this aside. Once the cover is removed, locate the red and black wire, and it's going to go down here into the bottom right corner of the main board. Once this is connected, we're going to try and route these wires through the rest of the harness here. There's a small clip on this side next to the card reader. And there's also a Phillips head screw here and another clamp. Just try and keep the wires out of the way so that when you open and close the top of the machine in the future for servicing or to replace receipt paper, that you're not going to get wires snagged as the top of the machine opens and closes. Once these wires have been routed, you can go ahead and replace the cover back on the main board. Okay, the next step to this project is we're going to splice into the printer power cable in order to power the Vscan. Begin by removing the power cable that goes to the printer control board and plug that into the socket included in the splitter. Now plug the splitter back into the printer control board. This wire is going to head back up to the front of the machine, but rather than going over the top, we're going to go down underneath. So fish this wire down underneath the bottom and make sure that this wire is clipped in to the connector here in the back. Again, just to keep the cables out of the way so you're not going to snag anything opening and closing it. Now let's go back underneath. Under the sliding tray, we're going to connect the two orange and black power cables together. And then we're going to zip tie these to the rest of the wiring harness. Use the gray plug to hold them. And then you can go ahead and place some zip ties periodically to hold these wires together. Be sure to trim the zip ties once you're done. Just keep the wires from being low enough that they can snag when you pull the tray out. Let's go back up top. So once you're completed with the installation, go ahead and put the screws back in to hold the bezel upright and get everything out of the way. Open and close the top of the machine a few times to make sure that none of the cables are binding, as we talked about earlier. And then you're ready to go ahead and test the Vscan device in your software. The minimum software version for Vscan to run is 05.00.38. So get with your distributor or download that from Genmega's website and make sure you've updated to 38 so it can recognize the device. Once you're in the operator menu, go to System Setup, Device Setup. If the system detects that the Vscan is in place, you'll have a button down here in the bottom that says Vscan. Go ahead and enter this menu. And within this menu, you can set all of the various options, which we'll discuss in a moment, and you can also test it. So go ahead and hit Vscan Test to verify that it works. And once you've seen that that is successful, you can go ahead and set the device as you like. The options are Vscan Enable Disable, pretty straightforward. You can enable the device or disable it. EPP only means that a customer can do a transaction only by touching the keypad. They don't need to use any of the function keys on the sides of the screen to select withdrawal or transaction amount or say yes or no. All of the selections can be made using the keypad only. This is really handy so that since you're sanitizing the keypad, it makes for a safer experience. The next is auto operation interval. This causes the device to run automatically at a predetermined setting. By pressing these, you can enter in anything from 1 hour to every 24 hours. And at that interval, the machine's just going to run the Vscan up and down and clean the keypad. The default is 1. Mode is you have 2 settings. Kills up to 99% of viruses and bacteria and 90%. The difference is 6-second scan versus a 12-second scan. And so if you'd prefer to leave it at the 90%, it's only going to be 6 seconds for it to run up and down, versus if you change it to 99, you'll get a slightly better cleaning from it, but it's going to take a little longer for it to run. And that's pretty much it. At this point, you're ready to bring the machine into service and enjoy a sanitized keypad. Remember that the Vscan device will also operate at the end of each transaction, or if a customer cancels out of a transaction, and then it's always ready to go from there. If you have any questions about this or any questions about the procedure, we do have this available in a PDF printed instruction, and you're welcome to call support at any time or email us at support@genmega.com. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thanks again.